Migrants. New year, same old story when it comes to the invasion of our southern border. After boasting yesterday there'd been no small boat crossings in the Channel for 4 weeks, laughably celebrated as the longest period in over 5 years, whoop-de-doo, Rishi Sunak and James Cleverly conveniently forgot that bad weather stops migrants making the journey, and instead they kept up the assumption that, frankly, we're all just stupid. Well, surprise, surprise, the windy weather calms down overnight, and today we have an estimated 150 undocumented illegal migrants touching down in Treasure Island, Britain. They'll be whisked off to a hotel, treated to 3 meals a day, free Wi-Fi, and even a free dentist that many British people find impossible to access. All this, by the way, costs taxpayers an eye-watering £8 million a day. And would you believe it? Images coming from the Kent coast today show not a flurry of women and children escaping war and persecution, but arrivals of mostly single fighting-age men. Well, let me tell you something. Whilst they patronise the British public with promises and stupid slogans, the only people lacking logic right now is the sleepwalking Conservative government, who will lose the election this year if they don't immediately announce a turn-back policy like Australia did 10 years ago. Prime Ministers Tony Abbott and Scott Morrison intercepted dinghies in the ocean, put migrants on unsinkable lifeboats and either sent them back to where they came from or to offshore processing sites. And do you know what happened? The crossings stopped immediately and Abbott won re-election. So look, forget Rwanda, it's finished. Stop Keir Starmer and show you care about Britain by declaring the small boats crisis a national security threat and send those boats back directly where they came from. That's my say. Benjamin, what do you reckon about that? Let's turn these boats back.
Well, the stupidity of your argument, and I'll sort of narrow it down to just one stupidity, is that you can't turn these boats back unless you have a deal with France, which is exactly what Keir Starmer has said we should have. Because if you're not working with them, if they're not on the same page as you, then it's no point turning them back because they'll just come straight back again.
Well, they won't. If we've got Navy ships in the middle of the English Channel, physically stopping them from crossing that 12-mile border, what are they going to do?
Good luck lining 12 miles with Navy ships for tiny little dinghies that are...
Well, why not? We're happy enough to get involved in the Red Sea and play world police in the Gulf of Aden and the Suez Canal. Why can't we protect our own borders?
So, to clarify, you're saying that the RAF should bomb the boats. I mean, what's it got to do with the Red Sea?
We never mentioned bombing.
Well, that's what we're doing in the Red Sea.
You're being hysterical again,
you're being hysterical by comparing the Channel to the Red Sea, where terrorists are attacking British and Israeli and American boats.
Well,
It's nothing like that. The truth is, you'll just come up with ever more hysterical ideas to shoot and attack and be violent and win plaudits, when actually the sensible idea is to sit down with the French and have a proper
Worst idea ever. Worst idea ever. The idea that the solution lies with the EU, who is incapable of dealing with the migrant crisis itself. That is why the EU is turning to the far right. That is why they are losing control of their borders, because they can't cope. The idea we look to them for lessons, guidance and help is ridiculous. What we need to do, yes, in part, absolutely, turn the boats back safely to France, to the safety of France, is one idea, but it will not stop, Ben. It will not stop until we raise the bar of who gets accepted as an asylum seeker in this country. We accept 3 times as many as France, twice as many as the national EU. We are over-generous. We provide them with 3-star hotels, as you said, dentistry, all this stuff. It needs to stop.
It's the life of Riley. Did you see that lad there in the hotel counting out his cash in front of the...
Just put them in tents, like they do in Calais.
Darren, hysterical Benjamin here thinks that Australia couldn't have possibly have turned the boats back. We can't copy them. They did it, and the boat stopped in their tracks. Why can't we do it?
Well, they had these beautiful orange lifeboats that were unsinkable that they placed migrants in and then turned them back or sent them to be processed elsewhere, and they never made it to Australia. So whilst I don't think anyone was trying to suggest for a second that we should stop throwing missiles in the English Channel, which may well hit parts of our own territorial waters, so that would be somewhat reckless. But I think that there is an obvious...
No, he didn't. Don't be so stupid.
No, what Ben was saying was that actually we're doing a better job policing the Red Sea than we are the English Channel, and I think that that is a perfectly viable argument, because we're not policing the English Channel at all. In fact, we're saying come one, come all to embed board and benefits in England.
Naughty Nana, come on, what have we got?
Well, listen, I got in trouble with Gary Lineker when I said that you should turn the boats back. I agreed with Priti Patel's turn-back policy, and literally people tried to gouge my eyes out for daring to suggest it. So I'm glad that we can now calmly, not including you, Ben, Benji. But we can calmly say that turning the boats back would be a good option. The only hole in your argument is that we have huge numbers in mass legal migration, and that's our actual real problem. But yeah, I'd say actually, if they don't really want to turn the boats back, put big cruise ships in there, and put them on the cruise ship, and then you can turn them back.
Do you not think if Sunak tomorrow woke up and said, right, we're going to turn these boats back, no more are going to come, he'd win the election in a heartbeat?
Yeah, I think he would, but unfortunately, you know what it is, the House of Lords would probably oppose any ideas, his own MPs would all oppose it, and then we'd be in this to or fro thing, and nothing would happen. And then in the end, the Home Secretary, whoever would be fired, and they'd have the Home Secretary number 10.
There's absolutely no political will in the Conservative Party to suspend or ignore bad international law that puts our country at risk. They're all cowards. They won't upset the French. They're too scared. They want to schmooze with their international pals and drink champagne at the Foreign Office while talking about the deplorables and laughing at us.
I'm sorry, Belinda, this might pass for a good policy in Reform UK, but in the real world, how exactly are you going to get the French to comply with this, to not just ignore those boats to go swanning back into our waters? Why would they want to work with us on this when you treat them like that?
Well, I'd say the French have recently sent back terrorist criminals against EU law because they've given that the burden, done what's best for their country, so we can just follow their example. Secondly, I don't think the £500 million we've given to the French, they've done diddly squat with it. We're literally paying for them to keep the problem going.
They've been partying. Have you seen the French border force partying when they're meant to be on shift?
Darren, you had something
to say. Well, I was going to make that point, that we've given them £500 million, and Benjamin saying, oh, aren't we treating Mr Macron absolutely appallingly? I bet you wouldn't mind £500 million. I don't think you'd be saying that GBNews were treating you appallingly if they gave you that. Would you?
You assume I haven't had £500 million, but look, no, I'd look a lot better if I had. Look, the fact is that you can't, we might be an island, but we can't turn these boats back without other countries having an agreement.
No, it's precisely because we are an island that we can do that.
But we can't, because there's nothing to say that they'd comply with what we're doing. And I think it's completely unrealistic. I think Sir Keir Starmer's plan to say that we take a set amount in an agreement with France would see them have this situation.
We don't want any, Benjamin. We don't want any legal migrants or illegal migrants.
So Keir Starmer's plan is to bend over and ask Mr Macron how much he wants for the pleasure.
I'm sorry, but that's a deplorable thing to say. We're
full.
Refugees.
Britain is full. There's no schools, there's no houses, there's no GPs.
Yeah, but that's...
Well, I tell you what, a lot of people who work in GPs in particular weren't born here, so, you take the migrants away.
They didn't come here on a boat, though. A lot of them didn't come through...
I couldn't care less if they're white Americans, white Poles. It's not about race, it's not about
I tell you what, that's wrong, because...
We are full. Britain is full to the rafters. There's no infrastructure. Yes, because of the Tories, but there's no infrastructure. There's nothing here to accommodate them. We don't want illegal boats, we don't want small boats, we don't want legal migration either, unless it's capped at the tens of thousands.
Well, yeah, they need to do it properly. If they're going to do legal migration, just do it properly. 700,000 people coming here legally is obviously not working, so they need to decide
Darren,
what skills we need.
Very briefly, were you a bit despondent today seeing these first images of those boats arriving in Kent?
I mean, I wish I was as sure as winning the lottery, because I'd put it on and play it. I mean, we all knew this was going to happen. We all knew there was going to be total inaction. And I'm afraid to say, Benjamin there speaks of doing more with the EU. Under the Dublin Convention, which is the Returns Convention, we actually sent back, we received more back than we actually sent.
I tell you what, if you take that view, then you definitely shouldn't agree with the Rwanda policy, because that says if they go to Rwanda, commit a crime, we have to take them. So the only ones we get are the criminals.
Right.
And I tell you, that's a stupid policy.